Hello everyone, today we're going to discuss dispatching for small fleet owners and things you may need to know before you do. If you have watched any of my previous videos, you may remember that your primary clients are small motor carriers. And the reason why you should be concentrating on targeting small motor carriers is because large motor carriers are very unlikely to hire you. We are discussing this question in our video Who Hires Independent Truck Dispatchers, which I'm going to link below. But for now, let's break down this group into two different subgroups. First subgroup will be an owner-operator. Okay, an owner-operator is basically someone who has their authority, they have their truck, and they also drive their own truck. And because they're busy operating their own vehicle, they're very often in need of help with finding freight and dealing with paperwork. And therefore, they are hiring independent truck dispatchers like you. Now, there is another subgroup in this category of small motor carriers, and that is small fleet owners. Who are small fleet owners? Well, small fleet owners, it's an individual or a company that has their own authority, but instead of owning one truck, they may own 2, 3, 4, maybe 5. And since this particular owner cannot drive all 5 of them, he may be only driving one or maybe not driving at all. So why would we want to target small fleet owners? Well, from the marketing standpoint, it's very advantageous to you. Let's imagine that you want to dispatch for 3 trucks. If you are targeting individual owner operators, you have to find 3 owner operators. You have to sign up 3 owner operators before you can dispatch these 3 trucks. Now, if you find one fleet owner with 3 trucks, all you have to do is just sign up this one fleet owner and you are managing 3 trucks at once. And now, instead of dealing with 3 different business owners, you're only dealing with one. However, you have to remember something else. Since this owner is not driving all the trucks or not driving at all, he has to hire drivers. And now you are getting into a very different situation, which we have to discuss today. Why do we care if there are hired drivers driving somebody's trucks? What's the difference? Are they driving differently? Are they slower? Are they faster? No. The issue is when you're comparing hired drivers versus owner operators is that they have different goals in mind. The goal of an owner operator is to make as much money as possible. He's the business owner, he's the driver, he wants to get the highest paying loads, and he just wants to make as much money as he can. And he's being very smart about what loads he or she may select when you offer or book loads for him or her. However, when it comes to hired drivers, they do not necessarily care how much money the owner will make. They are mostly paid per mile, and their goal is to drive as many miles as possible. And this will create a dilemma for you as a dispatcher. Let me give you an example. Let's imagine we have 2 options for a load. One will travel for 700 miles, and this load pays $1,400. Another load will travel for 200 miles and pays $1,200. Which load is the best load to book? The answer to this question depends who you ask. If you're going to ask an owner operator or actually a fleet owner, they're going to tell you that the load for $1,200 traveling 200 miles is a much better option. However, if you're going to ask a driver who drives for a fleet owner, he will probably prefer a 700-mile load, which pays $1,400. The explanation is very simple. For an owner-operator or a fleet owner, their truck doesn't have to travel too far, only 200 miles. They don't have to burn too much fuel. They don't have to pay too much money to the driver. There is not much wear and tear on the truck, and they're going to get $1,200 for it. So there is a lot of profit in this particular load. But for a driver, from driver's standpoint, 200-mile load is no good because it doesn't go far and they're being paid per mile and they're not going to make enough money. So they would much rather prefer a 700-mile load, and they don't care that the owner will not make enough money on it. As a matter of fact, they don't care if they lose money on it. And that brings me to the point I was trying to make. You, as a dispatcher, will have to make a decision. Which load should you book? If you book a $1,200 load, which travels for 200 miles, your client will be happy. But more than likely, driver will be complaining. He's gonna call this owner and say, hey, I can't make any money this way, and this dispatcher sucks. He can't do anything. We're not running. We should be running long distance and making a lot of more money. This is how it is. So he will be complaining about you and the work you do. Even so, you are doing what is best for your client, the fleet owner. Obviously, if you were to book the other load, which goes for 700 miles, then your client will be unhappy. And your justification that, well, I wanted to give longer miles to the driver is probably not going to fly very well, because the fleet owner is going to tell you, look, we have to pay for the trucks, for the insurance, we have to pay this driver, we got to be making money. I can't afford taking such loads. So as you can see, this creates a dilemma which you, as an independent truck dispatcher, will be dealing with. You will be actually in between these opposite interests. So how do we solve this problem? This problem is typically solved with proper communication. You have to communicate with the owner and you have to communicate with drivers. Now, in my opinion, small fleet owner has the final word, because they are your client and they are the one who is paying you. So they have the final word as to what loads are being booked and how their business should be operated. At the same time, you should not neglect interest of a driver, because if driver is unhappy and driver doesn't make money, two things going to happen. Either this driver going to quit and this fleet owner will have a sitting truck which makes them no money and makes you no money, or this driver will be conspiring against you and telling this fleet owner how bad you are and how poor of a job you are doing, which means you may get fired and lose this fleet owner along with the other trucks which were making you money. To do that, again, communicate with those drivers. Even so they're not your clients directly, even so they're not paying you any money, you should communicate with them and see how they feel. Because if they are angry, see if you can help them. If you booked a short load that pays great money and driver is unhappy about it, maybe you should go to the owner and tell them, look, we're making a lot of money on this load. Maybe you should pay out some sort of a bonus for this load to the driver because he's taking a hit on the miles to make you more money. Let's make it mutually beneficial so everyone is happy. So that's basically going to be your ultimate goal. This is a dilemma that you will be dealing with. I've been dealing with it for over 10 years and it always happens. It's much easier for us to deal with an individual owner operator because it's the owner, he drives the truck and he has one interest in mind of making the most amount of money regardless of how many miles he or she might be driving. With the fleet owners, it's trickier, but then you're getting the benefit of dealing with one owner and having multiple trucks. Also, small fleet owners have tendency to grow, so they may start with 2 or 3 trucks and they're going to add another one, then another one, and then you have this one client and you are suddenly managing maybe 6 or 8 trucks. And as you may remember, 6 or 8 trucks might be making you $6,000 to $8,000 a month, which is nice. So let's make sure that everyone is happy and everyone is making money. And before we finish up with this video, you might be asking, well, is there a way for me to target specifically small fleet owners? And the answer is yes. If you have watched our video about finding clients using direct marketing, I was talking there about dynamic databases where you can specifically target certain types of motor carriers. You may remember that you can set a number of trucks that motor carrier owns. So basically you need a motor carrier that has more than one truck, so we can say at least 2 trucks, and maybe no more than 5. And this will basically narrow down the motor carrier universe to the niche of small fleet owners. Now all you have to do is come up with a good marketing campaign to target them. Maybe this is one of the angles you can use when reaching out to them, is stating that you're trying to find a good balance for making them the most amount of money and keeping their drivers happy. And market this message to them and see if you can pick up some clients with multiple trucks. And with all that being said, we are going to wrap up this video, and I will see you next time.